The strange thing about Bitcoin is that most people used it before they understood it, trusted it before they could explain it, or hated it without ever asking what problem it was actually trying to solve. Right now, somewhere in the world, money is being frozen, inflated, or quietly losing value, and almost no one affected has any real say in the process. That's not a conspiracy. That's just how modern money works. And that's why Bitcoin exists. To understand Bitcoin, forget charts, prices, and headlines for a moment. Start with a simple idea. Money is just a shared belief. A piece of paper works because we agree it works. A number in a bank account matters because we trust the system behind it. Break that trust, and the money stops feeling real very quickly. In 2008, that trust cracked. Banks collapsed. Governments stepped in. Trillions of dollars appeared overnight. Regular people paid the price slowly, quietly, over years. A few months later, Bitcoin was born. No press conference, no CEO, just software released by someone using a fake name. The timing wasn't subtle. So let's explain Bitcoin like you're 5, without pretending you're stupid. Imagine a group of kids keeping score during a game. If one kid controls the scoreboard, they can cheat. If everyone keeps their own copy and checks each other, cheating becomes almost impossible. Bitcoin is that shared scoreboard. It's a public record that says who owns what. Copy it across thousands of computers all over the world. No single owner, no central switch, just rules. Every time someone sends Bitcoin, that action gets written down, not instantly, but carefully. About every 10 minutes, transactions are bundled together into a block. That block gets locked in and added to a chain of previous blocks. That's the blockchain. The important part isn't the name, it's the process. To add a block, computers compete to solve a math puzzle. The puzzle is hard on purpose. It burns electricity. It costs real money. Why do that? Because it makes lying expensive. If someone tries to fake transactions, they'd need more computing power than the rest of the network combined. That's not impossible in theory. It's just wildly impractical in reality. The computers that win this race get rewarded with new Bitcoin. This is called mining. Not because it's underground, but because it slowly releases new coins over time. And here's where the math gets uncomfortable. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. No committee can vote to change that. No emergency can override it. The code enforces it. Every 4 years, the reward for mining gets cut in half. This is called the halving. Less new supply, same system, different pressure. Traditional money works the opposite way. When economies struggle, more money gets created, sometimes carefully, sometimes aggressively, sometimes desperately. Bitcoin doesn't care. It doesn't respond to recessions. It doesn't react to wars. It doesn't adjust for political pain. It just keeps following its schedule. That rigidity is either a feature or a flaw, depending on where you're standing. This is where the hype enters. You'll hear Bitcoin called digital gold. You'll hear it described as financial freedom. You'll also hear it dismissed as fake, useless, or a bubble. All of those reactions miss something important. Bitcoin is not fast. It's not convenient. It's not designed for shopping sprees or daily coffee purchases. It's designed to be hard to change. That makes it boring in the short term and unsettling in the long term. Because if something exists that can't be inflated, censored, or easily controlled, it forces uncomfortable questions. Who should control money? Who benefits when supply changes? What happens when trust shifts away from institutions to code? There's also the risk no one likes to talk about. Bitcoin is volatile, violently so. It can rise for years, then collapse in months. It offers no guarantees, no insurance,
no rescue plan. Lose your access and it's gone forever. No help desk, no password reset. That level of responsibility scares people, and it should. Zoom out far enough, and Bitcoin stops being about price entirely. It becomes a stress test for the idea of money itself. If it succeeds, it proves that shared rules can replace centralized trust. If it fails, it proves that belief alone isn't enough, even with perfect math. Either way, it's already changed the conversation. For the first time, money doesn't need a country, a bank, or a permission slip. It just exists. The unresolved question isn't whether Bitcoin will go up or down. It's whether a world that keeps breaking trust can handle money that refuses to bend.